Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum to my viewers. Welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and share with your friends. And if someone have queries regarding their data analysis part, they may get to me with my given contact information. In this video, I am going to explain that how we will perform a sequential mediation analysis with our two mediators and with two dependent variables. In the last video, I have performed sequential mediation analysis, but in that video I have taken one dependent variable. So here mm, there will be a just more complex model. In this is my base model. Again, I am using this from my first video, and in there I am just taking two mediator for sequential mediation with the two dependent variable, and in the next third part I will add the third mediator to analyze the more complex model. So let's move towards SmartPLS, and SmartPLS version 4 I am using here. And first of all, I have to copy my base model to as a duplicate copy, and on which I will work on the sequential mediation. We will name it sequential mediation. uh, Let me name it is a part 2, and then we will save it. Now I will open this new model sequential mediation part 2. Here is the complete model. Actually this is my base model, which I have explained in my first video. So if you are watching this video, you have to go to my playlist and watch out the first video, that how we perform the confirmatory factor analysis and other things, and other results in this model. So I am removing this variable. Let me delete the moderator and the second dependent mediator. And now I have just you can see there is a two mediator, the mediator 1, mediator 2, and these two are basically dependent variables. Let me realign them so it will be easy to interpret and show you the exact effects on these variables. Just we will realign them, and I think this will be a little bit clear now, and you can easily view this in my uh, video. So these here there are two basically dependent variables. In dependent variables, first A is named dva and the second one is the dvb. For this simplicity, I have just renamed these mediators variables according to the independent variable IV and mediator, so one can easily understand the model, that how it actually works. But in actual scenario, when you have your own data, you definitely have your own variables, and you have to rename them according to your variables or construct name, and you have to report in your research paper or in thesis. So we directly here, now you can see there, you can see that we have to examine basically the indirect path, and there IV to DVA is the direct path 1, and DVB is the direct path 2, and the indirect path, if I just remove the this direct effect of on mediator C, then here we will have a simple sequential mediation analysis. At the later stage I will add the indirect path of both variable in with respect to these variables. So here I remove the direct path of mediator 1 on DVB and on DVA. I just want to show the effect of sequential mediation, mean IV to mediator 1A to mediator C. This is the first mediator, this is the second mediator, and then this is mediator 1 and this is a mediator 2, and when they work in a sequence, in a sequence or in a series, that is called series mediation or sequential mediation. In a sequence, we can say the indirect path here are, if I name it A, mediator 1 to mediator 2 is the B, and mediator 2 to mediator dependent variable is C, and mediator 2 to DVB will be D. Now we have to just examine here for sequential mediation two indirect path. The first indirect path will be A into B into C. For this is for DVA or the first dependent variable, and for second dependent variable the indirect parts will be A into B into D, that are basically required. If these two paths are significant, if this is significant and this path is also significant, then we will say that there is a presence of a sequential mediation for a given variables. And if any of them might be A, B, C or D, if becomes insignificant, then the one of the indirect will become insignificant and there will be no sequential mediation between the given variables. So this is basically our base model, and I am going to test this model in simple way. Just we have explained other things in a detail and previous video. I am going to just click on the calculate option, as I am using the reflective scale, so I will use directly consistent PLS SCM bootstrapping to get the beta weights with their probability values. Definitely there is a certain setting in a bootstrap setting, it should be on a minimum on subsample of 5000, and confidence interval is the percentile bootstrap. There are different options. You can use the bias corrected and accelerated bootstrap option also. Two-tailed, given the data, other things should remain same. We have to choose the path from the PLS setup, and the data we are using a single data set, so need not to change it accordingly. Just I will click on the start calculation option. Now it will execute the bootstrapping process, and it will just take a little bit time to execute it. As I have told you in earlier videos, the bootstrapping just take a certain time to execute, and for more complex model it take more time to provide you or give you results. Here it is executed, and you can see I am not removing the its effect here, the writing up here, so to show you that the values according to their results. So in this case, for outer model, the all values are significant. Basically these are the p values, and for p values we can change into the t values. T values must be greater than 1.96 or 2, and if it is greater than 2, then all the factor loadings are significant. For inner model I am using we have to select path coefficient with their p values, and if I zoom in, let me zoom in, then you can now see this, that the all paths are almost significant. All paths are significant. The simple way, if all paths are significant, then we can say that there is a presence of the sequential mediation in the our given model, and we will further check it through our path coefficient tables that is generated through the SmartPLS, and because we have to report the values from there in our analysis part. So let me now delete this. I have told you that there will be two main indirect paths for sequential mediation, and we will go to the path coefficient table. Here the path coefficient table is the first table. Basically these are the direct effects of the each variable on the dependent variables are on the mediator. Like you can see here, the IV's effect on DV is 0.365 and it is significant. That is all, these all path coefficients are represented in the diagram, also in the arrow. For example, IV to DV is a 0.365 and dvb is a minus 240. You can check here, IVdv is the 0.365 and its p value is less than 0.05. So the effect on IV's effect on dv is a significant. Similarly, IV's effect on dvb is also significant if the p value is less than 0.05. So the all effect will be significant, and we can say that the variable is significantly affecting the second one. But we are in testing sequential mediation, we are more concerned with the uh, specific indirect effects. And if I click on the specific indirect effect, now you can see here that these are the basically specific indirect effects. As I have told you that there are basically two main effects that we need to test for the sequential mediation. The first one is the IV's effect on a mediator 1 to mediator 2 to dependent variable B means second dependent variable, and the first second IV to mediator 1 to mediator C to DVM. These are for the sequential mediation effect, and these are the beta weights. Beta weights are obtained through, just as I've told you, the indirect path are A, B into C. For the path DVA, when we check DVA, and for DVB the path will be the indirect paths will be multiplied as in the AB into D, and their significance is calculated, and as the p value is less than 0.05, so these two paths are the significant. This significance show that there is a presence of the sequential mediation. Okay, but you can see also here that there are other three parts, three indirect paths which we have not measured, and but these paths are reported here, and these paths are the mediator 1 to mediator C and dependent variable A mediator 1 to mediator C into DVB and IV to mediator 1 to mediator C, and what these paths are actually showing here. Basically we have not mentioned here, we have not drawn the arrow, but the software itself calculated the indirect path for the given models, and that mediator C to DVA. The For sequential mediation, we were concerned for our main sequential analysis A to B to C or A to D, but like I have just written one path here. In this path I mentioned that the mediator 1A to mediator C to dependent variable. In the software, this path is also considered as a indirect path for these two variables. These two variables, like for example, I explain here first, IV to mediator 1 to mediator C. This is also a indirect path. If it is a into B, the indirect path for this will be A into B, and the software will also measure it. And for mediator 1 to mediator C to DVA, if I mention is it here, the second indirect path will be B into C. The software also calculated, and if it was marked D, then third path will be calculated according to mediator 1 to mediator C to dependent variable D, that will be calculated as a B into D. You can counter check by multiplying these values, the beta weights with respective beta weights, and calculate the values, and the software its significance will be calculated in the background of the software that already its coding are made. So this is about the sequential mediation with the single with the two, when we have a two dependent variable and just we have a two mediator that are showing a sequential mediation analysis. in the result output and the result report, you can first you have to report your path coefficient table, and you have to write about the direct effect of each variable on the other. And in the second type analysis, or in a second part, you need to report the specific indirect path, and these specific indirect path basically first one show you are confirm about the sequential mediation effect, and the other three are the indirect paths for the given model. And if you don't want to or do not want to report these indirect path, then you can skip these indirect effects. And if you report these indirect path, then there is a no issue, and you can also report them. Here if you can see, this is the specific indirect path according to the path we have created in our model. But for the total indirect path, if I collect here we can see here the total indirect path is shown is the total um, effect of each variable on the other through their indirect path. And these indirect path will be I hope if you compare this with this, IV to mediator 1 to mediator C, dV is 0.09, and here you will see IV to dVA, the indirect path, basically IV to taking all the variables, the total effect on the IV to dVA through indirect path is 0.090. And here you can also see that the indirect path for IV to IV to dVB is a minus 0.129. And you can see here for specific indirect path there is a 0.129 for the total effect, basically that is measured through IV to dVB. And this was mentioned here, IV to dVB. This is a total indirect path. So it if you can quote here the total indirect path or simply indirect path, then you can show it you can only explain the specific indirect path, reported it here. And in case if you want to tell about the distributed into three parts, for example, sometimes some author mentioned that we mention it the direct effect, then another column is added that is called indirect effect, and third column is created total effect. So if we can see here that here is the in path coefficient, this is a direct effects, like here 0.365 is this is a total indirect effect, and here is the specific indirect effect, and here is the total effect of each variable. So sometimes authors mention in this way by creating a table of direct effect and indirect effect and then total effect. And sometimes in thesis analysis, mostly I recommend that the first you need to mention here the first you have to show your graphical output, then you interpret this table that is the basically the direct effects of each variable, then just add in the specific indirect effect below the above path coefficient table and explain. Your mediation hypothesis will be uh, accepted or rejected on the basis of these indirect path results. If the indirect path results are the significant, then you will say that there is a sequential mediation or mediating effect of the certain variable with the given other variables. If these indirect paths are insignificant, then there will be no mediation, no either simple mediation or no sequential mediation is present there. And for this here in for path coefficient, just you have to interpret these result, and on basis of these result you could not accept or reject your mediation hypothesis. So this was all about the sequential mediation with the two mediators and two dependent variables. In my coming next video, I will show you that how we can perform sequential mediation analysis with the two mediator and two dependent variable. That would be the last part of this, the sequential mediation analysis. Thank you very much.